back inside the Parisi Palace, high above 2919 East Broadway. This is the Jake Feinberg Show, and we have a special guest on the line, a guy I've been waiting to talk to, Paul Winter. Welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Hello.
How are you, sir?
I'm fine, and you?
I'm doing quite well, and I don't want to pretend to sit here and try to chronicle your career in this abbreviated time, but I wanted to talk to you specifically in this portion of live radio. Over the year, I had reached out and finally found a phone number to the original bass player of the Winter Consort, Richard Evans, and he was in ill health. I talked to his wife many times. She didn't feel he'd be up for an interview. And then I called him, and I realized he had passed away, and I feel very much indebted to you, Paul, because I was hoping you could spend a little bit of time talking about your man, Richard Evans.
Sure, I'd love to. Would you like me to start?
The floor is yours, my friend.
Richard was the premier jazz bassist in Chicago in the early 60s when I first heard him, and he had the top gig in town, which was with the Eddie Higgins Trio at a nightclub called the London House on Wacker Drive in the Loop. And when our sextet, our college jazz sextet, won the Intercollegiate Jazz Festival in June of '61, one of the prizes was a recording contract with Columbia Records, because John Hammond was one of the judges of the festival. And he came to Chicago in November to make plans for the album, our first album, which was going to be recorded the following month there in Chicago. And I took him to the London House to hear Eddie Higgins Trio, not thinking anything about hiring Richard, but I mean, we had a bassist at the time. But we had, shortly before that, in that October, we had received word from the State Department that they were going to send us on a 6-month goodwill tour of Latin America. And John felt we needed a stronger bass player to be in the sextet. So he suggested we approach Richard about recording with us and then leaving Chicago, going with us for 6 months to Latin America, which all of that seemed a long shot. And Richard was several years older than the rest of us. I mean, he was in his late 20s, which when you're 21, I mean, that's somewhere close to, octogenarian. And we looked up to him very much, mm-hmm. and he thought about it, and he said, yeah, I'll do it. He heard our group and respected the players, but it was his sense of adventure that led him to leave a very comfortable situation there in Chicago and come out into the broader world. And John Hammond, though, did promise to get him studio work in New York after the tour would end in the middle of 1962, which John made good on those promises. Richard stayed with us throughout the tour, was magnificent as a musician, as a human being, as a mentor for us. And we came home from that tour, which was quite successful, quite well received at 161 venues. We played many universities throughout 23 countries in Latin America. And we came home to no work whatsoever. We had nothing. And a promised gig at Birdland fell through. And so Richard, everybody kind of went their separate ways. Richard was hired by Ahmad Jamal to play in his trio, which he did then for the next several years. And we only had one more gig with Richard after that, and with that original band, and that was at the White House in November of '62. Although it seemed like nobody back in the States had heard about the success of our tour. One place that did know about it was the White House. I had written a letter to JFK during the tour, just kind of saluting the State Department for sending out a student jazz group. It was the first time they had done that, and said that they should do more of that, or suggested that they should. About 3 weeks after we got back, there was a letter from Jackie Kennedy inviting us to be part of a series of concerts that she had launched called Concerts for Young People by Young People.
Oh, man.
So our concert was November 19, 1962, in the East Room. The audience was children from all the embassies in Washington, and a huge number of press people who were lined up around the back, because somebody in the press community had realized a couple of weeks prior to that concert that it was the first time that a jazz group had ever played at the White House, and so it was historic for that reason. And the next day we had front page publicity across the country. Every newspaper had a picture of Jackie or the group, and captions like "Jackie digs jazz," and it was quite a thing. But I had to find a new bass player and drummer and baritone sax player, because we had lost those members to various other activities after the tour, and unfortunately that was the last time that Richard played with us.
Richard did so, but for the record, Richard did get to play in the East Room with you.
Oh, he did. Absolutely.
Oh, that is so. Paul Winter, just the perfect tonic on a chilly day here in the Old Pueblo, just warming my heart. I mean, I feel like, because I saw this publicity over a year ago about you doing a consort, and I saw on the lineup bass player Richard Evans, but I don't think he made that gig. This was,
Yeah, he didn't. We were invited to play a year ago, November 22nd, at the Kennedy Library in Boston on the 50th anniversary of the JFK assassination. And it was an amazing event in a huge atrium that's part of this library that looks out on the bay in Boston. And our original sextet was to play, and James Taylor and the Navy Choir, along with Governor Patrick of Massachusetts. Two nights before that, Richard called me and said, I haven't played for a while. We knew that, and he was only going to have to play 3 pieces with us. But he said, I don't want to take the chance that I'd let you guys down. So we called Bobby Cranshaw, who was Richard's great buddy in Chicago years ago, and a mentor for us also at that time. He's a wonderful bassist who's been in New York for many, many years, and is one of the most beloved people in the whole jazz world. And so Bobby came and played.
Yeah, no, Cranshaw was on my program probably 3 years ago, Paul, and he told me about his collaborations with Joe Raposo on Sesame Street. But I this is such a high honor to talk to Paul Winter, and when you said that John Hammond said you needed a stronger bass player, I mean, did he just lock the groove? What was the kind of bass player you were looking for in the consort, and how did he enhance the sound?
Bobby Cranshaw told me in the cars. We were driving from the Marriott Inn up in Boston to the Kennedy Library that day about meeting Richard in Chicago when they were both quite young, and sharing and learning that they were both bass players. And Richard said, "Well, my man is Ray Brown," and Bobby said, "He's my man too." And so there's your answer. I mean, right. Both those guys had that kind of power and groove, and it's just it's an intangible thing that some people have. And Richard, with Harold Jones, the drummer, our original drummer, who's now and who after our tour went with Basie and is now with Tony Bennett, and Warren Bernhardt, our pianist. They were an extraordinary trio, and in our concerts they always played one or two feature pieces just as a trio, and it was something. I mean,
Yeah.
I just felt I was really getting to sort of be in the big leagues, almost like as a Sandlot player would if he got to be on the field at Yankee Stadium.
You know, I wanted this part of my show, Paul. First of all, I was born in 1978. I want to be very clear about that. All this stuff has occurred before. I'm chronicling this stuff before my time, and I could not ask a better person as we go into 2015. What are the leadership skills that you try to infuse in your band, and what are some of the leadership skills that are so vital for younger generations as we move into this new year? I would love you to talk about that.
Well, that's an imposing question.
It's heavy, I know.
I have to reflect on what has worked for me. I think that regardless of whether you're leading a group or you're being a solo performer or you're in a duo or you're just simply pursuing your dream, I would say that having the good luck to find something that you love to do so much that you will jump through any hoop imaginable to do it is the key. And you don't do that reading from a book of how to get ahead in the world or what was it, Dale Carnegie book, How to Be Successful.
Mm-hmm.
It's something where you're biologically driven and you're possessed, and it's falling in love. I mean, you can apply it to romance, to work of any kind, to taking care of children, to any worthwhile path to devote your life to. And I mean, I think that if you have a sense of adventure and explore to some degree, you'll have a better chance of stumbling into something that you love. And I don't know that there's any formula for it other than just being open to life. And if you are lucky enough to be lucky in love, however it might manifest, it's just I think the greatest reward for your sense of adventure.
Well, I want to tell you something, man. I had an opportunity last year to go out to the barren desert and in a little shanty and visit with somebody who, without you, you want to talk about love. This guy's name is Glenn Moore, and to a man, it's so ironic because earlier this week, out of the blue, Ralph Towner emailed me from Rome and was like, "Hey, I can still do the interview this Saturday." I said, "Well, actually, it's funny. I'm talking to Paul." And, essentially Oregon started because they were your band on the consort. That was, to me, those guys love you. And I just was hoping, in 3 minutes, could you talk about your definition of love?
Wow.
We can pick this up some other time, but I want to get this stuff out there. Yeah.
No, I know pauses could be quite pregnant on radio interviews, and that's another great one that's challenging. I would like to think that love is part of our nature, and you read the history of human behavior and from whatever the recent centuries or the last 2 millennia. And it's really staggering to think of how destructive and horrible our species has been to each other, to the planet, to other creatures. And all along, though, it seems to me that because the deeds that we read about are those dramatic ones, and in many cases done by men. And you have to think that all along there have been women, wives, grandmothers, who have been tending the home fires and bringing up the children, who felt this universal love that I think is most manifested in our feelings about kids. And so I would, in my most optimistic moment, I would like to think that it really is part of our nature to want to be connected to others and to bond with others. And for me, I became a parent quite late, and have two daughters now. And for me, the kids are this is the real meaning in life. It's the relationship with the kids. They show us not only in their behavior as little ones what it's like to be a purely innocent and honest and in the moment being, but the feeling you have toward them is, to me, what life is about. And when you get to spend your life with other things that you might like, whether it be a place in nature or a particular line of work that you love, or a song that you're making, or an album you're making, or some partnership with people, then you're enriched in the greatest ways. I think that's what that's what the journey is meant to be about, not how much we can accumulate and consume.
Mm-hmm. Well, Paul, if I wanted to tell you, I hope you can come back on for a full hour so we can go through your career. But I was on Richard's case all year, and I felt really awkward because, the guy's, like you said, it's the cycle of life and death, and he's left us now. But you just promoted that story. It'll be transcribed, and it will go all over the place. And I just hope you'd be willing to come back on. We can talk about Paul Winter for a little while, too, in the new year.
Well, I'd be happy to. And I'll just tell you the coda to my story with Richard. The night he lived up near Boston, and the evening after we had done the event at the Kennedy Library for the 50th anniversary of the assassination, which was videoed, I stopped at Richard's house to visit with him. The first time I'd seen him in many years. And we watched the rerun of the video together on a big screen and had a good time and had a good chat. And I didn't know if I was going to see him again, and as it turned out, I didn't. But I really felt that I was complete with this wonderful brother who had given so much to us in those early days.
Thank you, Paul. Happy New Year, man. I'll reach out to you soon. We'll get in touch, okay?
All the best. Thank you, Jake.
Thank you, brother.